What's up, everybody? So we're out in the shop, and today we're going to be working on the Kukri build. Now, what we're going to focus on today is primarily getting the shape exactly how I want it on the 2x72. So we're just going to refine it a little bit, and then we're going to go ahead, work on some bevels, get that part done. I think today's primarily just going to be focused on getting the profile where we want it and getting the bevels cut into it. If we have time to go ahead and do a second round of normalizing and then go into heat treat, I'll go ahead and add that in here. But my goal for this is primarily just focusing on the shape of it and the bevels. So we'll see how it goes. Let's go ahead, let's jump into it. Let's get this knocked out. So right here, what we're really focusing on is just kind of refining our profile, and I am doing something a little bit different than what I've done on other knives. I'm creating this kind of harpoon style spine effect on this. And again, I haven't done this before, but I wanted to try it out on this because I've seen a few Kukris that have this style of spine with a false edge on it, and I really wanted to try it out, so I'm going to try it out on this blade. And as we get into this, you'll see the effect that it creates, but I think it's going to be pretty cool. Now, when it comes to refining the shape and profile of this knife, all I'm doing is getting rid of some of the hammer marks. I forged this to the shape that I want it to be, so there's not much grinding that needs to be done on this. But this is purely, like I said, just getting in there and working on making sure everything is as smooth as I want it to be and getting rid of some of those hammer marks. Now, I was originally going to make the handle a little bit smaller than what it is on this, but I figured I wanted a little bit more meat in that area, so I'm gonna leave it, and all I'm doing right now is just kind of making sure everything is smooth and where I want it. But we're gonna go ahead and leave the handle a little bit beefier. Definitely turning out to be a really nice profile on this knife. Now what we're going to do here is we're just going to get the tang nice and flat so that it accepts our handle scales very easily. You don't want a bunch of hammer marks in this area because you end up with weird gaps in between the tang and your scales, and that doesn't look very good. So we're really just kind of focusing on that area, making sure it's smooth all the way around the edges of the tang. And right here we're just going to go ahead and do 3/16 holes on all 4 holes. I'll be using 3/16 pins, and then I'll be using a 3/16 lanyard tube. Now we're going to go ahead and create our false edge on the top. And the way that I did this was I started with about a 45-degree angle, and from the area that's closer to the ricasso, that's about a 45-degree angle. The area that's closer to the tip, and actually all the way up to the tip, is a little bit of a different angle because I wanted it to follow the curve of the spine, so that when you're looking at the side profile of this knife, the spine goes all the way through to the tip, and it almost looks like it has a mohawk that just comes off the top of it. You can see what I'm talking about right here, where that spine just goes all the way through to the tip where the forged area is. Now it's time to go ahead and do the bevels on this. What we're going to do is, just like I do on every single one of my knives, I'll do a 45-degree angle and grind it all the way to the cutting edge. This helps you make sure that your cutting edge is centered all the way down the blade before you actually start doing your primary bevels, and it just makes sure that everything is where it needs to be. Especially on a forged knife, you want to make sure that everything's as straight as possible, because you did use heat and a hammer to create the flatness of this knife. It wasn't done by a machine, so you want to make sure everything's exactly where you want it to be. Now when it comes to the bevels on this knife, it's a little bit harder than your regular knife because of the amount of recurve that's on here, but I wanted to do my bevels to where the area where the bevels met the flat area that you can actually see the hammer forged finish on, I didn't want it to have that big S curve that matched the recurve, so I needed to put a little bit of a different focus and pressure on the plunge line area versus the belly of the recurve. And what I mean by the belly is the broader part of the blade that's closer to the tip. I wanted that to have a little bit of a different shape to it, and I really like the end result by doing this because it just makes the blade look a little bit taller and broader than it is. But that's what we're focusing on right here, and as you can see, we're not using a plunge line jig because I want to eventually make my plunge lines sweep out a little bit. I don't want them to be super sharp. I want it to be a gradual plunge line, primarily because you don't really see sharp plunge lines on Kukris, so I figured I would go ahead and honor that on this and not put one of those on here. Now, some of the knives that I'm going to do in the future, I am going to be forging the bevels, so you won't have this amount of stock removal. But right now, I want to show people that you can do both forging and stock removal, and both skills are two skills that are awesome to have. Because learning how to do bevels like this right here by grinding them is just as big of a skill to learn as forging in the bevels. You know, getting a nice steady hand, getting used to stock removal, and being able to create awesome lines on blades with both belt grinders and hammers. Those are both good techniques to know. Now you can see here I have the belt hanging off the side of the platen. This is hanging off about 3/8 of an inch, and we're just using that slack area right there to help create this nice sweeping plunge line on this. I really like the way that this turns out because it just leaves nice smooth lines on this. And you can see what I'm talking about with the bevels, where it's a little bit broader towards the belly of it versus a little bit narrower towards the ricasso area. Now what we're doing right here is we're just using one of our medium Scotch-Brite belts to get rid of a lot of the grinding lines and smooth it out a little bit. Doing this makes it a lot easier when it comes to heat treat, so I like to do this and just make sure everything is nice and smooth pre-heat treat so that I have less work to do post-heat treat. Alright guys, I think we're going to go ahead and wrap it up right here, and this is where we're at so far. I think that this is turning out absolutely awesome. We've got our false edge up top here. So I decided to do this little spine area like this after I forged it. I could have easily made this part with the forging process, but I figured, what the heck, might as well use the grinder. So we just got kind of a false edge on there, bevels up there. I wanted it to follow the spine. So as you follow this forged area, the hammered area, you can see it goes straight to the tip, and then this just kind of sticks up kind of like a mohawk. But I like the way this is turning out. I did the plunge lines to where they're nice and swooped back as opposed to super sharp like I typically do them. That's the reason why I wasn't using the plunge line jig on this. But absolutely love how this is turning out. You can see where I flattened the tang of the knife. You know, where the scales are going to be, you're going to see all of the forged area. So I'm leaving all this texture on there. And everything else is just going to be super clean. But I love the way this is turning out. I love the profile of this. Hopefully y'all are digging this. But guys, tell me what you think about it in the comment section. That way I can know, you know, what y'all would change, or if y'all think y'all would keep it exactly how it is. Guys, that's the end of this one. If y'all would, give this video a thumbs up, share this video or one of my other videos. And guys, again, hit that subscribe button, turn on the notification bell so you get notified of all the new stuff that we have that's coming out. Guys, thank y'all for coming by. Thank y'all for spending your time with me. Y'all have an amazing day. Stay safe. I'll catch y'all next time.